Filed a patent for so-called voice sniffing for its Alexa virtual assistants, but it's raising fears the service will eavesdrop on people's conversations. The device can react when it hears trigger words in its owner's conversations. With this information, Alexa can determine a person's likes and dislikes to then recommend them products. Amazon insists that customer privacy is an important issue for the company. It added that customers' voice recordings are not used for targeted advertising. But it's not the first Alexa controversy, with users expressing worries over its, quote, evil laugh, something that Amazon has pledged to stop.
Are we really that desperate for approval that we need the machine to laugh at us? Alexa, people have been reporting that you've been spontaneously laughing.
Oh. Like that?
Social justice campaigner George Barder joins me on the line now. Good evening to you, George. Quite a few people are worried about this, Alexa eavesdropping on conversations. Do you consider this something to worry about?
I think there are sort of massive concerns. I mean, you can't help but laugh at what seems like a sort of virtual Freudian slip in terms of this sort of evil laugh coming out. But you know what that is a reminder of is that these microphones are always on. And you know, while Amazon's official response to this is that, you know, it's just a patent and it may not be for a number of years and it may not even come to market, it nonetheless points to a very, very scary future that, you know, of the kind that Aldous Huxley, when he wrote Brave New World, would have done well to envision. I think the more famous narrative in the West is 1984, which envisioned Big Brother as this sort of intentional surveillance device. But what we see with these always-on microphones is the way our own consumer desires effectively have been used to bring about a situation where every single moment of our existence can be mined for all sorts of data, and we're talking about corporations, hackers, and government potentially that can get into this you know constant stream of information about our moment-to-moment lives in the home. And traditionally, of course, in most countries, certainly in this one, the home was a sort of sacrosanct space, and governments always had to sort of make specific applications if they wanted to invade that home in any way. And of course, because all this information is being transmitted to third-party corporations, there's no end potentially to the ways that this kind of infinite surveillance can be used. And of course, as we go forward, the techniques for how to kind of market to us subliminally and subconsciously to get us to do and buy things that people that make profit out of us want us to do and buy, they will only increase. So I think there is huge worry. I mean, it's important to say also that anyone who has a smartphone, obviously there have been plenty of stories in the last few years about how the microphones and the cameras in those things can be turned on by all sorts of people, whether it's hackers, corporations or governments. But so I guess this is only an extension of a very wide issue that there's no really easy answer to how we respond to.
I'm just thinking off the back of the Facebook data harvesting, the things that Alexa would hear, and many people would say things in their own home that they wouldn't perhaps say out in a public place. Surely the potential for political organisations, surely they would really want to get their hand on the inner thoughts of people when they're safe at home.
Absolutely, and of course, there are all sorts of dangers in terms of any conversation that one might have that's sort of totally hypothetical, that uses certain words. You can imagine the security services, as they always do, arguing that, you know, to keep people safe, they need to be able to sort of access these technological capabilities. And, you know, anyone using a word like, you know, assassination, and, you know, it could be discussing a film or anything, you know, that can immediately trigger the device and the access of the security services. And certainly speaking as a political activist and social justice campaigner, you know, there are a couple of 100 years history at least of the authorities wanting to do everything they can to undermine the activities of dissidents that might effectively oppose the actions of the powerful. So I think absolutely there are huge concerns that way, and you know, I mean, there are these concerns go in so many directions, to the point where you can imagine political activities being effectively sort of undermined before they happen, because any number of people can listen in, you know, governments or whoever, or corporations for that matter, if the political activities are against them, can listen in to planning of what's going on and try and come up with strategies in advance that undermine those attempts to expose what's really going on. So yeah, I think that there are sort of infinite, potentially worrying implications of a level of surveillance that was, you know, unimaginable 20 years ago, and if anyone had sort of talked about this, it would have seemed terrifying.
Yeah, and Amazon say no targeted ads yet, but I do wonder for how long. We'll have to wrap it up there, I'm afraid. Pleasure to speak to you, George. George Barder, my guest, political activist and social justice campaigner.